Hello, today I'm going to be talking about 2 top tips for dealing with overwhelm. 2 top tips for dealing with overwhelm. And if this is the first video you have watched and you're watching through YouTube, please do subscribe and you'll be able to watch lots more content of strategies and tips for supporting your anxious or stressed out child or teen. Now, today we're going to be looking at ourselves and tips to help ourselves as parents, but also things that are transferable and can be really, really helpful for your children as well. So it's twofold today, tips for us and tips for our child or teen. So 2 really important things that we're going to cover. And I don't know about you, but I often reach the point of overwhelm. We are juggling so many different things. And even on my computer, I have so many tabs open, and that's what it feels like in my brain sometimes. So how do we deal with that when we've got all of these things on our plate, all the tabs open? How do we actually help ourselves to deal with overwhelm? And how do we model that behavior of coping and helping our children as well? Because our children watch us, and this is not to add pressure, but actually how we deal with our emotions impacts how they deal with their emotions. I mean, if you're on edge, like you've had a bad day, you come back, the kids aren't listening, you're on edge, then they tend to be on edge too, because they mirror how you are responding and reacting. So it's really, really important for us to have some coping strategies for ourselves. So one thing that I've only just really started doing recently is exercise. I've always loved getting outside and, spending time in nature. I think that is massive. And recently I've started running for a challenge in March to do Couch to 5K. And that's for supporting a big challenge my brother is doing to support Epilepsy Research UK on behalf of my son. Now, running, exercise, getting out in nature, that is something that is really, really key for our own mental health. Getting outside and, walking, running, whatever you're doing is so, so helpful, because you have to pause. You even just look around you at the birds, at the trees. It enables you to think of something outside of yourself and all your overwhelm and all your worries. So the first top tip is to do some exercise or get outside. That's all rolled into one, because when we exercise as well, it increases our endorphins. And even if, so sometimes I'm like, oh, I definitely don't want to run today. Actually, after doing the run, I feel so much better. I feel more accomplished, and it is actually worth it. So top tip number 1, get outside and do some exercise, whatever exercise that is. And then number 2, I find so helpful getting my thoughts down on paper. Now, that is great. Lots of people do kind of journaling to get their thoughts out of paper. When Box Full of Joy all started, it started with me creating pads for my son, but also the second pad I created was actually a pad for myself. So this is feeling overwhelmed. This is one that I created for myself to get my thoughts down on paper, and then to prioritize and think about, actually, what do I have to get done, rather than I've got all of these tabs open and it's just too many. Now, some people look at this pad and they say, oh, you've only got 3 priorities. Well, actually, that's on purpose, because if we have a list and lists and lists of 10 and they never get ticked off, and there's always more and more and more, psychologically, we feel like we have not accomplished anything. And that is not good, because then that makes us feel disheartened, and then that affects our actions, and that affects the results, and it's just not a good cycle. Whereas if we have 3, we get all our thoughts on the paper, we then decide what our 3 priorities are, and then we can tick those 3 things off in that day. And if we don't, well, then we can flip the pad over and go on to the next one and put our thoughts on, and then do the same. So I do this each morning and think about, what have I actually got to do? Some people use this pad and do it in the evening before bed, just to kind of stop them worrying and spiraling about all of the different things they have to get done. So that is something, that is the top tip number 2, get your thoughts down on paper. It means that you are focused on something. It means that you're not worrying about forgetting something, and it's all there. Even you could get them thoughts down on paper before bed, and then you could look at it in the morning and decide what priorities you're going to do. And who doesn't love ticking things off? I mean, I love that. It's a real sense of accomplishment. So 2 top tips for dealing with overwhelm. Number 1, get outside, get some exercise, get those endorphins pumping. And number 2, get your thoughts down on paper, whether that's before bed or in the morning, so that you don't let your worries and your overwhelm kind of run away with itself. So yeah, let me know what you do to deal with your overwhelm. And if you would like to grab one of our pads, then head over to our website, www.aboxfulofjoyuk.co.uk, and you can grab some there. I'll put the description in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye.